Hey guys, what's up? It's me, Mickayla Fatovic, and I am the broker owner of Elite Class Property Management and Real Estate Company. Today I want to talk to you guys about the lovely, awesome Florida bar approved lease contract that they have for realtors and for their clients and property managers and their clients, really whoever is a realtor. So in the contract, there is a section 16, and basically what it says is that if the tenant isn't able to get approved by the association, then the lease is contingent. So this is very important to understand from not only an investor or a landlord's perspective, but also from the understanding and perspective of a property manager, a realtor, a broker, an agent, because I've always kind of like looked at this section and been like, yeah, okay, but I didn't really actually ever have to look at this section because I had a situation that was pertaining to it. And as a lot of you guys already know, we start to learn more about the sections when we start to experience them rather than just reading them, okay? So this is a fun fact, and it's actually very important, and this actually coincides a lot with the HOA's regulations, which basically also says that there can't be a lease effective until the HOA gives approval. Now, HOA approval isn't always a requirement. Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. Usually it is. But you always have to be very specific with the HOA's process, because if you're not, then what happens is the HOA and the tenant, they can end up doing the application wrong, then a delay is present, and then you can be in the situation that I was recently just in. And yeah. So, what happened in my situation is we ended up having a tenant who applied and told us that they applied on a specific date, but they didn't do the application correctly. They ended up going into a lease with us, and then they concluded and completed the application after they went into the lease, even though they told us it was on the 17th, and it was actually on the 23rd that they completed their application. So what happened is I ended up having to basically like plead with the HOA's CAM to kind of approve these applicants quickly, even though it was like the CAM and the HOA were still within their allotted time. And oh my gosh. So I ended up getting it through as like the listing agent. But what happened is the HOA then kind of like took like that and was like, okay, well, we don't have to accept this until 14 days. That's our process. And that's from the application being submitted, completed, not like partially submitted. So, of course, naturally, the tenants ended up in a situation where they were like living out of the hotel and all this other stuff. And because they didn't do it correctly, the delay presented itself. And then this lovely, lovely term is in here that basically makes it so if there is no HOA approval, then anyone can back out. The tenant, the landlord, anyone. So, also in this section, it states that basically the tenant agrees to use their due diligence. But what happens when the tenant doesn't use their due diligence? I don't know if I'm going to end up being able to find that out or what, because I basically told my client, I said, listen, we should just let it go. It doesn't matter if they didn't pay. Actually, they breached their lease with us too, but it's not like it mattered because the approval of the association was never obtained. So the lease was contingent. So the lease could have been voided and they would have been owed all of their money back, even though they signed the lease. Because again, the lease isn't effective and it doesn't start until the HOA approval is there. And that's actually one of the biggest reasons I say do not invest in HOAs as an investor. I get that everybody's like coming here to Florida. They're like, wow, the new constructions, they're so pretty. Trust me, I do the same thing. They're beautiful. But at the same time, associations suck, okay? We ended up signing a lease for our client on the 22nd, and because there's this whole required to approve by a third party involved because of where the property is located, it kind of screws things up. Because even though we executed on the 22nd, because the tenants didn't follow through until the 23rd, and because the HOA didn't really follow through until December, we ended up getting screwed. Our clients ended up getting screwed. Everybody got screwed because of that third party being there and that third step being there and there being additional things that are outside of my control and are now in the hands of another third party. But just personally, from my own feelings as an investor and as like a property manager and a broker, I would never invest in an HOA. There's too many restrictions, there's too many rules, there's too many everything. It doesn't even matter what the state or the city says because the HOA kind of runs things. But as an investor and as a broker, totally avoid them. It's not worth it. I think that HOAs are meant for primary homeowners, and I do not think that they're a good investment. And it's funny because I actually help a lot of people who are in HOAs invest, and I help a lot of people who end up getting tenants into HOA homes. But I, just from my own experience, I would never do it myself, and I think it's too much risk associated. I think that there's too much room and error and issues, and like the tenant doesn't pay for the association when they're responsible, and then all of a sudden you go through a hardship or something. Like, you understand? Like, there's so many things, and depending on how much your HOA is, there's so many things that can happen. There's so many additional fines. There are so many additional rules. We're already governed as it is by the city and the local governing bodies. Like, we don't need additional rules in place as an investment outside of what the city and the state is requiring. That's just my own perspective. But hopefully this helps you guys. Any questions, comments, feedback, and or your own situations and experiences investing in HOAs, put it down below with the reason on whether or not you believe you should invest in HOAs or not, because ultimately it comes down to preference, but my own preference, stay out. Okay guys, don't forget to like and subscribe somewhere. Okay, bye. Also, I just want to clarify something really quick. You can invest in HOAs if you invest into HOAs that are not restrictive. There are Hortons associations that are not super restrictive. They're low in monthly fees, and you can invest there, but also, I still wouldn't even do it just because of the fact if my long-term rental isn't succeeding, I want to turn that bad boy into an Airbnb and or a recovery home and or something else so I can stabilize that home and not just make passive income, but be able to make like people's lives better. So yeah, that's my perspective.